Auburn Baseball has drastically improved its starting lineup this transfer portal window.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first or second listen every single day. It's a happy hour edition of the show. Lindsay, Crosby, writer at auburndaily.com, hanging out with us again today. And part of the reason I'm so excited about rolling out two shows every single day is because the second show, it could be things other than football. And look, Auburn Baseball, Lindsay, they've had a pretty interesting and pretty dynamic transfer portal window. Lost a big name. We'll talk about Sanford in just a moment. But some of these new faces for the Auburn Tigers, it's easy to say, okay, I see what Butch Thompson's trying to do here.
Yeah, and the theme of this transfer portal window, as far as the incoming guys, are guys that were really, really good in 2023 and then maybe took a little bit of a step back last year. Or I guess 22 and 23. I had that backwards.
Yeah.
Really good
at
their first
22
year.
and then took a step back this past season. Interesting.
Yeah. Now, a lot of them have reasons for that. But if you think about where Auburn baseball is from an NIL perspective, let's step back just a second here. We've talked on the show before about how Auburn's at a disadvantage, and Alabama, but compared to other schools in the conference because Alabama doesn't have lottery scholarships. And so the cost of attendance is a bigger hurdle. It's a bigger portion of your NIL money at Auburn than it is at other schools. So you can't always afford to shop in the most expensive aisles of the store. And I really like what Butch Thompson has done because provided nothing goes drastically wrong, like it did last year, where you kind of built around a starting pitching duo of Gonzalez and Alsop, and neither one of them worked out like you thought they would.
Yeah.
Provided that doesn't happen, you went and got some guys, you bought them. This was a classic buy low scenario where so many of these guys could be so incredibly good in 2024. Like shortstop Eric Snow came out of USF, right? His freshman year, he was the defensive player of the year in the conference. Okay. Now last year, he struggled defensively. He struggled offensively. He was dealing with some injury issues. Like it wasn't just poor performance. He was hurt, right? Like there's only so much you can do to get around that. Mm-hmm. And so it's something where like his first year, he batted .343. He had a 45 RBI as a freshman. In 23, he batted .258, but he was playing through injury. He was dealing with some stuff. And it's going to be a similar acquisition to how when you went and got Cameron Weiss out of Miami of Ohio. There you go.
Okay. Got it.
Sorry.
Got it.
Yeah. Weiss out of Miami of Ohio is a dude that defensively is really, really good. And if the offense can show up, it's great. With Snow, you've seen the offense show up his freshman year when he was healthy. It was the defensive player of the year, and he bat .343. Like, that's a game-changing talent.
Is Snow a starter? You expect Snow to start?
95%, I expect him to be the starter at shortstop. I mean, there's a chance that Derek Fabian or somebody else beats him out, but 95%, Eric Snow is your starter at shortstop. Like, It's a dude, be excited about that, right? And then you go and you get Lucas Steele out of Sanford. He's listed as a catcher. He's played more than just catcher. A couple players have left Sanford, actually. But similar thing, 2023. He batted .315, 51 RBI, 16 home runs as a freshman. Last year, batted .245 with only 13 home runs. Like, batting average came down 70 points. There's injury issues. The team itself wasn't that great. A lot of different reasons. And so, like, you can see, again, you're buying low, but you can see where he was really good his freshman year. Now, a little bit weird because he's a catcher. Obviously, you have Ike Irish, who, as of now, is projected to be a top 10 pick in the 2025 draft. Irish played some right field a little bit last year. Like one day a weekend, he'd play right field a bit. He can DH, he can catch. Steele can catch, he can DH, he can play some left field. So you have options. And it may feel weird to have two catchers in the outfield at the same time, but you can absolutely do it. These guys are athletic enough to do it.
Yeah.
And so another example of a guy that was really good, took a step back. You're betting on him coming back to that skill level. And talking about a starter, Samuel Dutton out of LSU, guy I'm really excited about. You made a trade with LSU because Chris Stanfield went there, right? But Samuel Dutton, another guy, 2022 as a true freshman. He was their game 3 starter in the back half of the schedule, right? He started 9 SEC games as the number 3 starter. Last year, 19 games as a reliever, 20 innings, 7.97 ERA. You saw him be really good before he got hurt, right? You saw him as a starter. You saw him do well. Didn't issue a walk in his final 7 appearances in 2022. I mean, the kid's good. Took a step back last year. You bring him in. The idea is he's going to be one of your starters. Another situation where you should see improvement, and you're banking for closer to 22's numbers than 23. To me, it's a really good way to go out and get guys when you don't have either the NIL resources or the ability to spread it as far as some of your rivals do. They've brought in some big names on visits. I mean, I've seen, can't talk about all of the guys that I've heard the names of, but some really big names, guys that are going to be draft picks next year, including some possible first rounders. And a lot of situations, Auburn was in the ballpark on NIL, but Auburn was towards the bottom of the list, right? And so they've had to go and make a strategy. This is the strategy. And I'll say this before we go to break. I don't know that's coming soon, is Butch Thompson has shown the ability to identify talent. And you can simply look at some of the guys that were committed to Auburn that were drafted by MLB teams. And it's easy to say now, like, oh yeah, Gunnar Henderson committed to Auburn, and he was rookie of the year last year and leads second in the AL in home runs right now. Yeah, it's hard to miss on that. He committed to Butch Thompson after his freshman year of high school.
Sure.
This coaching staff, Carl Nunnemaker, Butch Thompson, have shown the ability to effectively scout and recognize talent early. And so I trust that they feel like the issues these guys faced last year, whether it was health or something else, these can be fixed. And Auburn can pick up 3 or 4, maybe even 5 starters out of the portal window for the 2024 season.
All right. Yeah, more on that and specifically what Auburn lost as well, Lindsay. All that's coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is the best place to buy tickets, whether it's for sports, whether it's for concerts, the theater, comedy shows. It doesn't matter. Lindsay, can you imagine going to an event and you look down and you're like, I got in here by buying a ticket not on Game Time? Can you imagine that?
I can't imagine spending that much money for something where I could find it for cheaper on Game Time.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I mean, the person who's not having fun at one of these events, it's because they didn't buy their ticket at Game Time, and they're like, man, this is cool, but it's not worth the money I paid. Game Time, you never have that because it's the cheapest and most cost-effective deals, no matter where you go. No matter where you go. In fact, they've got the price match guarantee where if you can prove, hey, I can get this ticket cheaper somewhere else, you get like 110% of the difference credited to your account. So, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Lindsay, when you look at the losses, there's a few, but the biggest, I can't imagine you would disagree with this, was Chris Stanfield leaving Auburn and going to LSU. It's a big name. I mean, him and Ike Irish were probably the 2 biggest names, the 2 biggest individual brands on this lineup.
Yeah.
Did Auburn do an okay job replacing the hole that he left behind him?
Yeah. So you have options here, right? The whole thing with Chris Stanfield, slam dunk center fielder. I think he's going to be he has the potential to be a first round draft pick in 25. I think he's better at leadoff. He didn't lead off for a good portion of the year for Auburn. Talking to some people who were familiar with what happened, there were some conversations about whether it was an NIL, whether it was role, lineup position, things like that. But the main plan number one, freshman Cade Bellew is going to move into center field. Now, Chris Stanfield did something like this himself. If you remember, he got into the lineup about halfway through the previous season, played a lot of left field. He really kind of struggled with that monster at first, figuring out what was going on. And a lot of the power he was showing was more gap and doubles power than it was home run power. But when you finally graduated your center fielder in Cason Howell, after 37 years of college baseball, Chris Stanfield stepped right into center field, and that's what Cade Bellew is going to do. I feel like his power flashed a little bit better his freshman year than Stanfield's freshman year. I do think Stanfield's probably a faster player. I think Stanfield's one of the fastest outfielders in baseball. But Cade Bellew is going to be able to step into center field and I feel like hold his own on day one. Now, they did kind of make some acquisitions to fortify the outfield. They went out and got Bristol Carter out of East Carolina. Outfielder, he's going to play in a corner, but he's a guy that can step into an everyday role in the outfield. If you're rotating Lucas Steele and Ike Irish at one of your outfield spots, and you're going to have to rotate them because you've still got, you have both of them. You still have Cole Strickland, who you feel really good about behind the plate. I got to check on Carter Wright off the top of my head. I believe Carter Wright's still around as well. So you could have 4 catchers this year. So you're going to have to rotate the corners, but you've got Bellew, you've got Steele. Obviously you add Carter to that. I like that setup. And then it's just this whole class to me is a lot of guys that you can project them to take bigger roles. A guy a little underrated, I got a lot of like DMs and texts when he committed, is Mason Koch out of Creighton. The pitcher, was a sophomore there last year. And I've got some friends in the prospect space who follow this. One of them lives in Omaha, so where Creighton is. Sent me a text immediately. He's like, bro, you guys got an amazing pitcher. He's mostly worked in relief at Creighton, but he's absolutely a guy that can step into a starting role. And from what my guy told me, the analytics, the stuff behind what he's actually throwing, the word was phenomenal. That ballpark there in Omaha probably has the best calibrated and aligned TrackMan setup in all of college baseball, because college parks are small sometimes and some of the numbers are a little weird. And they said he completely pops off the page when it comes to the actual stuff he's throwing and how good it is. Like from an MLB perspective, these are MLB prospect guys that we're talking about. They can't wait till this kid's draft eligible. Auburn got him for his junior year. I would expect him to contend for the rotation. He went 5-1 in relief last year, had an ERA of 3 and change, struck out 60 batters in 38 1/3 innings. The stuff is good. It's just teaching him to turn over a lineup the second and third time and maintaining that stuff deeper into outings.
What's his name again, Lindsay?
Mason Koch. It's Koch. I believe it's Koch. I've never actually said his name to people. We work via text and DMs.
Got it.
And videos sent to each other. So I don't actually know that's how you say his name. I believe it's Mason Koch.
Got it. Yeah, that's a name to watch then for sure.
Yeah. Some of the other guys you lost, I do want to kind of give Gavin Miller and Zach Crotchfeld, 2 guys who were really high in that same class as Chris Stanfield. Miller's an infielder. He played third. He played first. He was contending for the third base job as a true freshman before Bryson Ware decided to go nuclear and set the program single season homer record, right? Played a lot of first base last year behind Cooper McMurray. I really thought, especially if Cooper goes pro, he has the option to be drafted. From what I've heard, he's leaning towards coming back, but that's not decided yet. I really think Gavin Miller could have played a valuable role on this team in 24. I don't necessarily know if he would have been a starter. He's now at Houston. You feel good about the fact that, like, it's not like he left and went to a UAB or a Troy or somewhere. I mean, he went, nothing against Troy. He went to another major conference program. Same thing with Crotchfeld, the lefty out of New Jersey. Great fastball. Slider looked really good. Never really seemed to put it together at Auburn. I didn't pitch after April last year and had less innings in 24 than he had in 23. I know that he had discussed potentially transferring after his freshman year. He stuck around for another year. Didn't quite work out. He went to Texas Tech, another guy that went to another power conference and a major program. So you lost some talent. I really feel like Stanfield's the one that hurts you the most, but thankfully you have quality at that position. And again, a local guy in Cade Bellew. I like what Auburn's done. I don't think they're done. The portal is closed as far as new entrants. I really don't think Auburn is done. They've had some guys on campus as recently as this weekend. I would still expect Auburn. They're looking for a starter that has experience in the rotation. He can point to innings as a starter and say, this is what I've done. They're looking for that reliability still, kind of be an anchor of the rotation. I would expect that. I could see one more hitter coming. I don't know what position. I don't really think they care. A lot of the guys have a lot of versatility. We're talking about catchers playing the outfield here. Like, a lot of these guys have versatility, but I could see one more hitter. I really do think one or two more pitchers is the way to go. I'd love to have a guy who had relief experience in a high leverage role, a closer, a setup man. I'd love a starter, and I think they would too. We'll have to see what happens in the next couple weeks, but a lot of these kids right now are off playing summer ball. And so that's one of your issues, is trying to figure out who can come visit around summer ball, things like that.
Yeah. Lindsay, thank you so much for this update. And you can find all of Lindsay's Auburn baseball nuggets at auburndaily.com and on socials at Crosby Baseball. Please like the video. Please subscribe. Let us know if you kind of want to use, if you want us to use this second show, these happy hours, for some non-football stuff. Just let us know. Let us know. We're doing this for you guys, giving the people what they want, as Lindsay always says. So like the video, subscribe. We'll see you tomorrow. This has been Locked On Auburn.